Everyone knows how this story goes. Sears was the dinosaur. A company with 100 years of mail order experience watched Amazon build the exact same business on a computer and did nothing. Slept through the internet. Deserved what it got. Here's the problem with that story. In 1984, 11 years before Amazon sold its first book, Sears co-founded one of the first online shopping services in America. It put more than $1 billion into it. Americans were buying merchandise through it over phone lines in 1990. And then Sears sold it and wrote the whole thing off. So this is not a story about a company that missed the future. Sears bought the future, funded it for 12 years, and walked away from it at almost the exact moment it started working for somebody else. Today, there are 5 Sears stores left in the United States. 5. At its peak, this company ran more than 3,000 stores. And the reason is not that Sears couldn't see Amazon coming. For most of a century, Sears was Amazon. What happened here is the same thing that happened to Blockbuster, run twice, 40 years apart, by 2 different sets of people who both wanted the money out. Start with what Sears actually was, because it was never a department store. It was a logistics company that happened to sell goods. In 1888, Richard Sears mailed out a thin catalog of watches and jewelry. By 1893, it was a general catalog, and it kept growing until it ran past 1,000 pages and 100,000 items. A book that arrived at your house, that you searched, that you ordered from, fulfilled out of a central warehouse and delivered to your door. In 1906, Sears opened a 3 million square foot mail order plant in Chicago, run on a scheduled system of belts and chutes that let it handle 10 times the volume of anything else in America. If that sounds familiar, it should. That is an Amazon fulfillment center built 90 years early. And like Blockbuster, Sears had a second business hiding inside the first one, and it was the more profitable half. Sears sold you the washing machine, then financed it, insured your house through Allstate. By the 1980s, it sold you stocks through Dean Witter, sold you a home through Coldwell Banker, and in 1985 handed you a Discover card. Wall Street called it Socks and Stocks. The sales floor had quietly become a customer acquisition channel. The money was in the financing. Hold on to that, because it is the same shape as the late fee. The most profitable thing in the building was not the thing the company was famous for. Now, 1984, February, Sears, IBM, and CBS form a joint venture called Trintex. CBS walks away in 1986. Sears and IBM keep going, 50-50, and the product they build is called Prodigy. Understand what this was. Before the web, before browsers, a graphical service that came into your home down a phone line, carrying news, weather, sports, consumer report summaries, stock trading, banking, airline reservations, electronic mail, and shopping. You could order merchandise from Sears, from J.C. Penney, and from around 45 other direct shipping merchants. In your house, on a screen. Sears did not miss electronic commerce. Sears built a mall inside it and invited its own competitors in. And for a while it worked. 100-home test in Ridgewood, New Jersey, regional launch in 1988 in Atlanta, Hartford, and San Francisco, nationwide on September 6, 1990. By the end of that year, 635,000 customers. By 1993, Prodigy was the largest online service in America, passed CompuServe, well ahead of a small competitor called America Online. It peaked around 2 million subscribers in 1994. Sears was running the biggest consumer online network in the country the year before Jeff Bezos filed the paperwork for Amazon. So why does nobody remember it? Because Prodigy misread its own customers and then punished them for it. The whole model assumed people would come for the shopping and that advertising would pay for the rest. They didn't. People came to talk to each other. Message boards and electronic mail were the killer feature, And those were exactly the parts Prodigy treated as a cost center. In January 1991, it capped free mail at 30 messages a month. In June 1993, it started charging by the hour for the most popular areas. Subscribers left invisible numbers. Both policies were reversed. The damage stayed. Prodigy had the audience and taxed the one behavior that was working. Which brings us to 1993, the year Sears chose the past on purpose. In January, Sears announced it would close around 100 stores, cut 50,000 jobs, and end the catalog. 105 years of mail order closed in a press release. In the same restructuring, it spun Dean Witter Discover off to shareholders and took Allstate public, an offering that raised roughly $2.1 billion. Read that sequence again. Sears shut down its remote selling business and cashed out its financing arms in the 18 months before the commercial internet arrived in American homes. Then 1996. IBM and Sears sold Prodigy for around $200 million after sinking more than $1 billion into it. Sears took the write-off and went back to selling refrigerators. Now hold that next to what was happening elsewhere that same year. Amazon's revenue in 1996 was $15.7 million, and it lost almost $6 million. Prodigy was losing $30 to $60 million a year on roughly $200 million in revenue. Sears looked at those numbers and saw a failure it wanted off the books. Bezos looked at the same shape and raised money on it. The difference was not information, it was appetite. And then comes the extraction, the part that maps directly onto Viacom and Blockbuster. In 2005, hedge fund manager Eddie Lampert merged Kmart and Sears in an $11 billion deal. Over the following years, the combined company spent roughly $6 billion buying back its own stock. $6 billion that did not go into the stores. Lands' End was spun out in 2014. Then in 2015 came the real one. Sears sold 235 of its own stores to a newly created real estate trust called Seritage for $2.7 billion, then leased them back and started paying rent to sit in buildings it used to own. Lampert's fund was the largest shareholder on both sides of that table. In the first 2 years alone, Sears paid Seritage $349 million in rent and another $45 million in termination fees. By the end, Lampert's funds held around $2.6 billion of Sears debt, collecting somewhere between $200 and $225 million a year in interest from the company he was running. On October 15, 2018, Sears filed for bankruptcy over a $134 million payment it could not make. So what actually killed Sears? Not the internet. Sears had the internet in 1990. It had the warehouses, the brand, the credit relationships, the customer list, and a 10-year head start. What it did not have, twice, was anybody willing to lose money long enough to win. In 1993, it sold the future to fund the present. In 2015, it sold the buildings to fund the shareholders. Disruption did not kill Sears. Sears was harvested, and the harvest just took 30 years. Same pattern, third time. Next autopsy is the restaurant chain everybody says died from all-you-can-eat shrimp. It didn't. It died from a real estate deal signed 10 years before the shrimp, and the 37-year-old trying to bring it back right now knows exactly which one.